Hello learners, welcome to the session on management of solid waste in food industry. This is a part of your MOOC course on food fundamentals and chemistry. So far you have learnt about the production of the food, different types of food products, preparation, processing, their packaging, their distribution, retailing and consumption. So you know all the stages of this production, processing, packaging or retailing or distributions, there is a chance of the generation of the waste from the food industry. So throughout the food supply chain, you will see that some part of the food gets lost or gets wasted. So there is huge quantity of production of the waste in the food industry. Can you imagine how much food is wasted every year? If you see the data of the United Nations reports, you will see that globally almost 13% of the total food produced is lost from the farm to retail stage and 17% of the total food produced is lost at retail and consumer level. So you can say that around 30% of the total global food production gets wasted at different stages throughout the food supply chain. So that's a huge quantity. And as these wastes are generated in the food industry, so these are very rich in organic content. So these are rich in carbohydrate, protein or fat, and these are very difficult to manage. So if you don't manage this food waste efficiently in the food industry itself, then it will lead to the unsanitary condition in the inside the plant, manufacturing area or packaging or retailing area, or it will also produce the foul smell, it will also pollute the environment, it will pollute the water source, it will pollute the soil, it will pollute the air quality. So all these will ultimately create public nuisance. So all the food industries experience the increasing demand from the regulatory agencies and the public for efficiently and scientifically managing this kind of wastes efficiently. So our objective today is to talk about the solid waste management. So first I will try to tell you something about the general waste management, the benefits and other things, and then we will focus on the solid waste management. So what is solid waste management? It is the process of collecting, reusing, recycling and disposing of waste materials in a safe and environmentally friendly manner. So I hope that after this session you will be able to learn to list the types of different wastes which are generated in different food industries. We will also be able to explain the benefits of waste management in food industry. Then we will be able to discuss waste management strategies followed in the food industry. We will also be able to describe the methods of solid waste management, and finally we will be able to identify challenges of solid waste management in the food industry and also the future directions and innovations. So let's first see what are the different types of wastes are generated in different food industry. So if you see the example of the fruits and vegetable processing industry, so for all the industries the wastes can be of organic in nature or can be non-organic in nature, can be solid, can be liquid. So if you see the wastes which are generated from the fruits and vegetable processing, the solid wastes comprises of the stems, stalks, leaves, peel, rind, seeds, pulp, pomace or discarded fruits and vegetables, etc. And the liquid waste which can have some component of fruit juice and can have the water, washing water which is used for the cleaning the fruits and vegetables or the equipments or the plants, that get mixed with the fruit juice and other liquid component from the food processing, and that will form the liquid waste part from the fruits and vegetable processing. Similarly, if you see the examples of the waste from the dairy products, dairy processing, you will see that the solid wastes like rejected products, rejected milk products, milk solids, cheese granules, fat, etc. And the liquid waste can have waste milk, whey, buttermilk, washing butter. In the meat and poultry processing area, that will also produce some of the solid waste like the skin of the animal which is removed during the meat productions, the bone, the fat, the offals, those are the organs which are not used as the meat itself. Then the meat trimmings, horn, hoof of the animals. From the poultry processing area you can have poultry feathers, from the egg industry you can have egg cells or broken eggs. So all these will make the solid waste component, and the liquid waste from the meat and poultry processing also have that blood or the washing water which is used for the washing and cleaning of the either the product or the equipments or the plants. From the fish and seafood processing also, there will be number of solid wastes like the skin, scale, bone, head, leftover meat after filleting, sails, etc. And the liquid waste can have blood and washing water. From cereals and pulses processing, one can have husk, bran, seed coat, broken grains or pulses as a solid waste and the washing butter as the liquid waste. So, these are the examples of the organic wastes which are generated in the different food industry. Now, we will see the non-organic wastes. So, you know that the huge quantity of packaging materials are used in the food industry for the packaging of the different types of food products. So, that packaging material can also form the part of the waste, and the processing chemicals, the cleaning agents, the detergents, disinfectants, the lubricants which are used in different stages of the food processing, those can also make a part of the non-organic food waste in the food industry. So, you know, this huge quantity of food waste, whether it is a solid or liquid, whether it is organic or non-organic, so these will create various problems if these are not managed properly. So, now we will see what are the benefits of the effective waste management in food industry. First and most important part is that if you manage the waste from the food efficiently, that will help to enhance the public health and the food safety. How? Because if these wastes are not treated properly, that will contaminate the good products, good food products, there will be a chance for cross contamination, that will also attract the pests or insects or microbes, there will be the risk of disease spread from the food to the food handlers or the consumers. If we can manage this waste efficiently, then there will be reduced risk of contamination, pests and disease spread. There will also be a chance of cleaner, safer food production environment. Very important benefit of waste management is the reduction of the environmental impact. So, you know, if the food wastes are not treated, not managed properly, if these are dumped in the landfill, that will contaminate, that will pollute the soil, that will pollute the water sources, that will pollute the air. So, there will be the chances of air pollution, water pollution or soil pollution, and there will also be production of the greenhouse gas like the methane, which will be produced from the decomposition of these organic wastes from the food industry. So, by efficient waste management in the food industry, there can be the possibility of the reductions of the environmental impact, reduced greenhouse gas production, reduced landfill use, reduced pollution. Another important benefit is the economic benefits. So, if these wastes are not managed properly, that need to be disposed of. So, that will actually incur the disposal cost to the food industry. So, by proper management, the food industry can reduce the disposal cost. They can also generate some revenue from the proper utilization of these wastes. Some of the wastes can be utilized as the byproducts. For example, the skin from the meat industry, that can be utilized for the leather preparation. So, by that way, that organic wastes can be utilized for the byproduct utilization, can be used for the composting, compost making, can be used for the energy generation through the biogas production or biodiesel production or bioethanol production. So, all these will lead to the circular economy, because any raw material which enters into the food processing chain, if after the preparation of the food products, the waste of that food processing can also be again utilized for the further production of the value added products. So, that way that will contribute in the circular economy. And the efficient waste management also helps in supporting the food security. In some of the food industry or the food service establishments like the restaurants, hotel, etc., where there is some quantity of unused edible, unsold edible food, that should not be thrown, that should not be wasted, that can be diverted to can be donated to the various food banks or charity. By that way, that can help to reduce the hunger by donating the edible food from this food industry or the food service establishment. Another important benefit is the regulatory compliance. You know, So like all the food industries, they need to follow, they need to comply with the standards, rules and regulations and the requirement as per the existing rules and regulations of the country. In India also we have Environment Protection Act 1986, we have Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981, Food Safety and Standards Licensing and Registration of FBOs Regulations 2011. So all these acts, rules and regulations gives the specifications which the food industry needs to follow with respect to their waste management. Waste management is governed by the Central Pollution Control Board, State Pollution Control Board, and it also governed by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and Ministry of Urban Development. So there are standards for disposing, for discharging the wastewater into the water resources, into the agricultural land. So how much should be the pH of that wastewater, what should be the suspended solid load, what should be the biological oxygen demand of that wastewater. Those standards are given by the regulatory agency. So all the food industry need to comply with that regulatory compliance. So another benefit of waste management is that by doing this waste management, food industry can improve the company's reputation and also can win consumer trust. How? Because nowadays consumers are very conscious, environment conscious, so they would prefer to buy the product from a company which give priorities to the waste management or which adopt the sustainable practices in their company. So by that way the company can improve their company's reputation and the consumer trust through the efficient waste management. So from this discussion you can say that the proper waste management is not just about minimizing waste, it is about creating a more sustainable, efficient and socially responsible system. So how would it be possible? So what the strategies the food industry need to follow for the waste management? Here in this slide you can see that the strategies like the prevention of food waste, then reduction or minimization of food waste, then reuse of food waste, then recycling, then energy recovery and disposal. And if you see the pyramid, you will see that the most favored option is the prevention of the food waste and the least favored option is the disposal. Prevention of food waste is not very easy, but it is the ideal option for the food waste management, but it is not possible everywhere. For example, the food industry can use the biodegradable, can use the reusable packaging material. Reusable packaging material for fruits and vegetable transport, they can use the plastic crates. That does not need to be disposed of. So that way the waste generation from the plastic material can be prevented. For process optimization, if the food industry can review the process optimization and implement some of the modern technologies for different production, processing and packaging, they can also reduce the generation of the waste. So second option is the reduction or minimization of the waste. After reduction or minimization, there is a scope for the reusing or repurposing and recycling, energy recovery. So I will discuss all these strategies one by one. So first is the waste minimization and prevention. How is it possible? The food industry can minimize the waste production at the source itself. Source itself, I mean to say that source like the when the fruits and vegetables are harvested, or the meat or milk is produced, or at the point of the processing of the dairy or milk or seafood or fruits and vegetables, or the packaging or the retailing, at the point of that source the waste generation can be reduced. For that the food industry needs to review the production process to identify and reduce the waste generation. They can also implement better inventory control to avoid the overproduction or spoilage or wastage of food ingredients. Then they can consider the product design in such a way that it reduces the waste generation. And they can also go for the sustainable packaging, use of efficient packaging, reduce the excess packaging materials use, and they can use the reusable or recyclable or biodegradable alternatives for the packaging of the products. So by all these ways, the food industry can minimize or prevent the waste generation at the source. Then once the wastes are generated, there is a need for waste segregation and storage. So, for segregation at source, what to be done? For minimizing the cross contamination and enabling the easier recycling or composting, one needs to segregate the waste, whether it is solid waste, liquid waste, whether it is a recyclable waste, whether it can be reused or repurposed, whether it will have to be disposed of as landfills or incinerated. So, all these are to be segregated accordingly, and for segregations, for separation and collection and storage, the color coded bins or containers can be used for the organic waste, for recyclable waste, for the hazardous material. And for storage, one has to keep in mind that if the organic wastes are to be stored, that is very rich in moisture and all the organic compounds, so that will attract the microbial spoilage. So, better to prevent that microbial spoilage and prevent the foul odor smell from that organic waste, one needs to store it properly, maybe in a sealed container or in refrigerated condition, to reduce the odors and the bacterial growth from that food waste. So, once the food wastes are segregated as per the future use, the future processing steps, then next step is the reuse or repurposing. So, how the food waste can be reused? There are huge quantity of organic wastes are generated in all the food industry, whether it is fruits and vegetable processing, whether dairy, whether seafood, whether meat, poultry. So, organic wastes are generated, and if these are not treated, these will go in waste as a these will disposed of as a landfill. So, we should not treat all these organic waste as a problem. Rather, we should consider them as resources for further value addition, for valorization of the byproducts. So, these can be utilized as a byproduct of that food industry. So, for example, from the fruits and vegetable processing, we can have the byproducts like the skin, peel, pomace, rejected fruits, vegetables. These can be processed for the extraction of food additives or enzymes, like the food additives like the pectin, starch, gum, antioxidants, color, the flavor, essential oils, dietary fibers, single cell proteins, enzymes, etc. All these are value added products which can be produced from the all these food wastes or the byproducts. Then the fermentation of carbohydrates from the fruits and vegetable source, that can also be utilized for the production of the alcohol or vinegar. And then from the cereal processing units, we can have the byproducts like the brans or germs or seed coat, which can be processed in the value added products like bran oil, dietary fiber, polyphenols, etc. If you see the byproducts from the dairy industry, you will see that the whether it is a solid rejected milk solids or whether it is a whey or a buttermilk, so those can be processed further. Those can be, the liquid can be concentrated, can be centrifuged, can be dehydrated, and we can have the value added products like whey protein concentrate, lactose, butter oil, buttermilk powder, whey powder, etc. Then here you can see the examples of the byproducts from the meat and poultry industry. So, from skin of the animal which is removed during the meat production, that can be salted and tanning can be done for the skin for preparation of the value added products like leather. Then the organs of the animals and the meat trimmings, those can be processed into the different food ingredients, casing, pharmaceuticals products, animal feed or fertilizers. The animal bones can be crushed and processed into preparation of the bone meal, mineral supplement or gelatin. The fat which is obtained from the animal carcass, that can be extracted and used as the cooking fat or manufacturing of soap. The horn, hoof, hair, whatever is there at the body parts of the food animals which is generated during the meat production, that can be used for the value added products like different artifacts, the paintbrush, the carpet, etc. Even from the poultry processing unit, we will get the feather, poultry feather, which can be utilized for the feather mill preparation, cushion preparation, sports equipment preparation. From the egg industry, you can have egg cells or rejected eggs which can be processed into pet food, fertilizers, etc. In the seafood industry or fish industry, you can see that there will be production of the scales or bones or head part. So, all these parts can be further processed in the value added products like the through size reduction and steam cooking, we can have fish meal or fish protein concentrate. Through oil extraction, we can have fish oil. Through hydrolyzation, we can have fish protein hydrolyzate. Through the hot or cold water extraction, we can have gelatin or collagen. From the scales processing, we can have chitin or chitosan. So, all these are value added products which can be produced from the byproducts which we obtain from the various food industry. So, by that way, all these byproducts can be reused or repurposed for the further preparation of the value added products. When this reuse is not possible, repurposing is not possible, then the rest of the wastes can go for recycling. So, all the organic food waste that can be sent for composting. So, composting where the microorganisms decompose the organic material present in the food waste in a controlled environment to create the compost, that is the valuable fertilizer. All the non-organic packaging materials, non-organic wastes from the packaging, so those can also be recycled. The non-organic packaging materials like the plastic, the metal, glass, those can be recycled and used further, and the energy can be recovered from the organic waste. So, this is also recycling and the energy recovery. This is a concept of waste to energy. So, where we can have the product like the biogas, biodiesel, bioethanol. Biogas can be produced in through anaerobic digestion of the organic materials by microbes. Biodiesel, that can be produced from the fats and oils and greases which are collected from the food waste, and that gets converted into biodiesel by microbes and some chemical reactions called as transesterification. Bioethanol, another biofuel which can be produced by hydrolysis and fermentation of sugars, starches and other carbohydrates by the action of the microorganisms. Now, we will see how the compost is made from the organic waste. As we are focusing on the solid waste management, that is why I am giving you the example of the composting and the biogas production. So, what happens in composting of organic waste? First, the organic wastes are collected, then those are shredded and mixed with some bulking agents like the dry leaves or the straw, etc. Then there should be actually provision for the aeration. The organic wastes and the bulking agents are layered, are stacked in piles, and there should be provision for the ventilation. There should be the presence of the moisture also. Then the microbes will decompose the organic material present in the waste. So, aerobic breakdown of simple sugars and proteins, that will release of carbon dioxide, water and organic acids. In the next step, there will be heat generation, and that will be thermophilic phase where the temperature will be around 50 to 65 degrees centigrade, and that the microbe will degrades the cellulose and the proteins and will release the carbon dioxide, water and ammonia. In the final stage, that is the cooling or maturation and curing, in that stage the decomposition will be slow, the temperature will be lower, and the organic acids will break down, that will form the humus, and there will also be the nitrification. The ammonia will be converted into nitrate, and that will enrich the humus, and this nitrate that will enrich the quality of the compost, and that can be used as the soil fertilizer. So, next we will see the biogas production from the organic wastes of the food industry. So, once the organic waste from the food industry are collected and those are stored in a sealed container, because this is a anaerobic condition required for the biogas production. So, in that container the organic waste will be stored and the microbe will act on those organic waste, and there will be hydrolysis of the organic matter. The organic matter present in the food waste like the carbohydrate, proteins or lipids, that will be hydrolyzed and form the simpler compounds like the glucose, amino acid or fatty acids. Then there will be the action of another group of microbes which are acidogenic bacteria, which will produce the acids, volatile fatty acids from the simpler compounds, and also will produce some hydrogen and carbon dioxide. Then another group of microbes, those are acetogenic bacteria, that will lead to acetogenesis. That means they will produce the acetic acid or acetate, hydrogen and carbon dioxide from these volatile fatty acids. Then the last stage, there will be the action of the methanogenic microbes, that will lead to the methanogenesis. That means it will produce the methane from the acetate, and there will be also production of some carbon dioxide, and there will be the production of the biosolids which can be used as the slurry or that can be utilized as the soil fertilizer. So, this is the way the biogas, that is the methane, is produced from the organic waste generated in the food industry. Here in this slide you can see the biogas plant, the components of a biogas plant. There you can see the digester where the waste material is put for the digestion, and there is a gas holder. There is one inlet for waste feeding where the organic wastes are fed through the inlet, and there the biogas produce the methane that will come out from the gas outlet, and the slurry or the biosolids that will come from the outlet for the slurry. So, those were the examples of the recycling and recovery of energy from the organic bio-waste. So, what will happen to the non-recyclable materials? So, how these non-recyclable materials can be disposed of? When it is not possible to reuse, it is not possible to recycle or repurpose, then the non-recyclable materials can go for incineration or the landfill. In incineration, non-recyclable wastes may be incinerated, reducing the volume and generating heat or energy in some cases. But in that case, one has to keep in mind that that can lead to the pollution, air pollution. So, there will be emissions, gaseous emissions from the incineration. So, that has to be taken care. If nothing is possible, there is no other options available for the disposal of the non-recyclable materials, then that waste should go for the landfill. In cases where no other options are available, only then the waste should be sent to the landfills, but this should be minimized due to the environmental concerns. So, now you know what are the different strategies: prevention of waste, then reducing or minimization of the waste, then reuse of the waste, recycling of the waste, energy recovery and disposal as a landfill or the incinerated product. So, other things which the food industry need to follow is the waste monitoring and documentation. So, all the food industry needs to set their achievable waste reduction goals, and they should have a trained person for the waste audits who will regularly audit, who will regularly collect the data to track waste generation, disposal and recycling efforts. They will identify the main waste streams and optimize the systems for efficiency. Then they should also maintain all the records for the regulatory compliance, the records of the waste generation, records for the disposal methods, the recycling rates for reporting to the whether it is a local regulatory authority, regional or national regulatory authority for regulatory compliance in terms of the waste management from the food industry. And for doing all these, the food industry also need to train their employee, need to make the employee aware about the importance of the waste management. So, they should regularly conduct the training program for the employees so that they are trained in proper waste identification, waste segregation, waste storage and disposal techniques to ensure that waste management system works efficiently. And the company, the food company should also promote sustainability. They should encourage their employees for the sustainability practices like the reducing the food waste, using recyclable materials and considering waste minimization during the production planning. Here you can see some of the best practices which can be followed in the food industry for the waste management. So, one of the best practices is the waste to energy, that is the energy recovery. So, company should invest in systems that convert the food wastes into bioenergy, whether it is biogas, biodiesel or bioethanol. Another best practice is the zero waste initiative. This is a very new idea where the companies are trying to have the zero waste policy. Some companies are adopting zero waste strategies where they aim to divert, if not possible the 100%, they aim to divert at least the 90% of their wastes from the landfill through the recycling, composting and reuse. So, they send only 10% or less quantity of waste to the landfills. They try to utilize majority of the waste through recycling, reusing or composting, etc. So, that is the zero waste initiative. Company can also implement the sustainable design and smart waste management, implement sustainable production and packaging designs that minimizes the waste generation and environmental impact, and the company should also use some smart technologies for waste management. Though there are so many options available for the solid waste management in the food industry, but there are challenges also, because you know the food industry produces high quantity, high volume of wastes. It is organic waste or non-organic waste, the quantity is very huge. So, that needs the treatment of that waste, the management of that waste needs the high initial investment for waste management implementation. That needs the logistical and the infrastructure, logistical for collection of the waste, for transport of the waste to the waste processing area or to the recycling area. So, there is a requirement for the logistic and the infrastructures for the waste management. That can be a barrier. And there is also chances of mixing of organic and non-organic waste. So, as the treatment of organic waste and non-organic waste are completely different, so there is a requirement for the manpower for the segregation of this organic and non-organic waste. That can also be a challenge. Then there is another challenge is the lack of awareness and education among the food industry employees and also among the consumers. We are not aware enough about the reduction of the food waste or food loss and how to take care of the food waste, how we can minimize the food waste. So, that can be a challenge for the food industry for the solid waste management. In spite of all these challenges, there are the good news also. The researchers are working on various aspects. They are innovating ideas, they are implementing in the food industry for the waste management, efficient waste management. So, in the future the food industry will adopt the practices that minimize the waste and maximize the resource reuse, that is the repurposing or reusing or the valorization of the product or the byproduct utilization and recycling. So, all these will ultimately lead to circular economy benefits. So, that is the future direction. Another important part is that the adoption of the advanced technologies in food supply chain. For example, the industry can use the smart waste management systems. They can use the AI for the identification of the waste, for the sorting of the waste, for predicting the quantity of the waste, so that they can avoid the overproduction or the wastage of the food. The AI can also be used for the inventory management. The Internet of Things can be used for the in the food supply chain for identification of the expiry date, and if there is a requirement of the use of the product which for whose the expiry date is very near, then that product should be sold first, that should be used first. So, for that purpose the sensors can be used which can monitor product quality and send the alert when the food is nearing its expiration date. The food industry also can adopt the waste to energy technologies. They can develop and use sustainable packaging. They can collaborate with the third party recyclers for recycling. If they do not have their own recycling facilities, they can go to the third party recyclers. So, these are the future directions and innovations for the food waste management. So far in this session, we have learnt how the solid and liquid food wastes of organic nature or non-organic nature are generated at various stages of food supply chain, how effective waste management can help in reducing the environmental impact, enhance the food safety and public health, improve the economic benefits, improve the brand image of the company, and also help to comply with the regulatory requirements, how the waste management strategies like the prevention, reduction, reuse, recycling, energy recovery and disposal of waste can be adopted by the food industry for the effective waste management. Then you also learnt about the organic wastes can be utilized as value added byproducts or for production of compost, production of biogas or biodiesel. Then you also learnt how the packaging materials can be used, reused, or what is the importance of using the biodegradable or recyclable packaging materials. Then we discussed that the waste should be incinerated or disposed in landfills only when no other option is available, only there is no possibility of reusing, repurposing, recycling of the waste, then only we go for the incineration or the disposal in the landfills. So, there are various options in the food industry for solid waste management, but still there are challenges, multiple challenges, like the infrastructure and logistic challenge, the high cost, the mixing of organic, non-organic waste, the lack of awareness, etc. But in future, more emphasis should be given in adopting circular economy using smart waste management system and waste to energy technologies by the food industry for efficient solid waste management. So, I hope that today from this session you learned the basics of the solid waste management in the food industry, and I hope that you will be able to address the MCQs which will be shared with you at the end of this week. And thank you for watching this video. I wish you happy learning.